Hello, everyone, and we're off. It's working. We're on. Thank you. Yeah, so much is transpiring in the world, and it's been a long time since I did an energetic update and some information what has been going uh, on with the ascension, with the energy, with the planet. So having said that, everything is going perfect to divine plan in accordance with it. Um, as many of you know, we do have two layers or two timelines that are playing out congruently. So with this, what you have is a a higher divine layer, which ones reside in, where you're separate, let's say, from the movie and all of the fear propaganda. However, you do have the vision and the ability to peer into both timelines. And as part of your divine work, many of you or most of you do that. And again, it is important. So what we have currently and in the past week or two, an immense amount of photonic light being delivered to the planet. Uh, and having said that, it is instrumental in advancing ones forward in their consciousness state and also within their physical vessel at activating the higher crystalline quotient within the individual vessel. Uh, So, also having said this, the stage now is presently being set upon the sun, and going forward here for at least the next week, but perhaps even beyond, to begin to emit a direct photonic light that enhances the consciousness, so it awakens more, to be simple with it. And so that is going to energetically be distributed now. So what has occurred over the last week or so with immense bursts of uh, photonic light and activation codes that were given in the solar flares from the sun, it was pushing down, if you will, a lot of light to this ground area uh, to pressure, let's say, ones that were asleep, but also to set the stage for this now that the sleeping ones have been compressed a little bit more, that they say enough is enough, and they awake and they become aware um, to the higher timeline and more of the truth. Uh, so having said this, what you are going to see commencing, let's say now and going forward in the next week as well, many of you will begin to see perhaps friends, family, and others begin to awaken higher and to know the truth. Now, also with this, I'm given, I feel, but I've also see that other, let's say, other channelers and divine ones and light workers. Also, many are saying that they feel something very good and big in store for this month. And what I wish to say that I can attest to that as well, that there is something substantial on what I call the lower timeline that is ready to occur or is already in the process of occurring that will awaken more as well. Now, we're seeing some indications of what that could be, but what I wish to say, do not limit it to one thing. As we know, there are just so many things that can contribute to the awakening. And as we know, the amount of documentation and evidence that's been given to the planet to know the truth at this stage is overwhelming. Really doesn't require much more to get humanity to awake. The main thing is just the distribution of the awareness. Now, again, as always, it's not encouraged for anyone to go out on the street and bang someone over the head to wake them up. As we know, that's not how it works. That you be the beacon of light, and they come to you, or you keep, if you're online on the social medias, you keep putting your good information out there, and when it's time, they do see it, and it is imminent. So the Ascension is going perfect. It's going very well, and on the individual level, so many more are advancing, discovering new gifts, new abilities. The overall physical organic body is advancing very good, and it depends upon the individual at what level in their process with their organic vessel they are in, to what gifts they have turned on, what abilities that they have, and of course, what they experience as well. So there are many great things. The signs in the skies are increasing, as many of you know. And again, this is to, let's say, it's to assist you in one way to keep the vibration high, keep your interest there, keep your focus on the higher truths and going forward. Having said that, in these times, many of you will discover that your manifestation periods are becoming more instantaneous. And again, I remind all to be very meticulous with what you say, how you say it, and even some words. Now, this depends on the level of the co-creator, how powerful they have become. So, for example, some just being introduced that they're able to manifest, perhaps would maybe wait a day or so for their manifestation, but the higher co-creators that have developed their energetic ability and are fully consciously aware that they are creating, they can, create almost instantaneously. So it's very important to be meticulous with, all of your words, everything you say. Also, I'll go a little bit deeper into this. It's also important that any lie is deception, that you already know, but sometimes something incorrect may come out of your mouth that you may not know that it's incorrect. If that occurs, you will catch it later, and please make amends for anything you might have said to someone that was not correct. And one of the main reasons for that is, if you don't correct it, and if it's a bit of deception, depending upon your purity, deception is actually a negative energy, and it could make you become a magnet for unnecessary negative things, to keep it simple. So the integrity and the purity becomes even more important to keep it intact, because it is also your fuel, if you will, for your experience here and your abilities, is the purity of what you are, your demeanor, your actions, and your reactions. So it's important to keep them upmost to the highest possible degree, so that you experience more and more of the miraculous experiences, and also seeing things that others don't. And getting on to that, as many of you know, you can see things that one that are not awake cannot see, and there's also reasons for that, because everything is energy with it, in the least. So quite a bit has been happening, bodily upgrades. let me say with this, the twin flame concept that you put out, that many have put out, it's a very real concept, and it depends upon the definition of it as well. There's many definitions, variations of what the twin flame relation is and what it involves. So you have many variations on that. But the important thing, what I wish to say for any of you that actually know it's real and are one of those and are part of it, at this time, if you're not matched up with your consort, your other half, or your other partner, it's important just to keep your focus that you want your creator, your co-creator pair. So you just no longer want your twin flame. It's important to distinguish that you want the highest possible. And it's important to work upon yourself so that when you two come together that you're already complete. So your time spent alone is to work upon yourself, to make yourself whole. And when you make yourself whole, this other consort, if you're a male, she comes in, she is also whole, and very quickly. It doesn't take much work at all, and then you're calibrated together, and everything is compatible, and then you began to manipulate energy in good ways. Of course, you cannot manipulate in bad ways, but you began to do this to the energetic fields here in this lower dimension upon the planet in very very impressive ways. So, for example, with two coming together, you don't just create one combined energy that is how will I put this? That is just comprised of the two of you. It actually goes exponentially and becomes many multiples of what you are as individuals. So let's say 1 and 1 does not make 2. In this instance, 1 and 1 makes many, you could say hundreds. So you are dealing with very important energy and creation and creational codes to affect this reality and to assist with the ascension. So with this intense creator power comes great discipline and responsibility with it. And this is also why it's been important of your process to keep your energetic fields as pure as possible and as absent of fear as possible. And one of the reasons to do your work to become as absent of fear as you can, you're not to be a powerful co-creator here if you have fear, because that would contaminate your creations. Now there's a certain, perhaps a little bit of fear or negativity that is required within your energetic field to keep you in the lower realities, but as we keep going forward, that keeps diminishing and diminishing. And for ones of you that are going, let's say, beyond the 5D, it diminishes completely because it's also the way. It is your vehicle out of here. The purity is your vehicle out of here. And it's the purity of what you are. So it's a transitional mode to do this. It's a transmuting of what you were into your full purity. So what you were before in your past life, or in not your past life, but let's say in your younger years or what have you, that was there to hold you in a certain place and time. And during this process of us ascending, going higher, you keep shedding off the negativity and all of that negative energy as you become the master, because as you become the master, it's also your vehicle out of here. So you fill up your fuel by maintaining the integrity and, of course, being the pure of heart as you can. And having said that, we are all empaths, those of us that are ascending, meaning that by being an empath, you are able to uh, transmute and transition energy within your energetic field. And why this becomes important, it's actual very powerful gift. No, being an empath is not a curse. It's a curse when you don't understand in the early stages of what it is. But when you come to be more knowledgeable on it and have more information about it, you see that it's an actual gift and that it's important that you are an empath. And part of being the empath is to transmute the negative energies upon the planet and in this dimensional layer to assist others. So you are, for the most part, perhaps most of you watching this are what you call the vanguard. You are advanced with these abilities and knowledge to know that you are transmuting energy for this lower level to raise these ones up to where we're at. So, having said that, it's part of a process. Now, I know let's say over the last week or two, it's been pretty intense. Many lane resting periods for some of you, headaches, and the uh, a whole bag of Ascension symptoms. But again, I can assure you all that it is Ascension symptoms. So, having said that, we'll quickly jump to the two timelines, what's going on. And again, Father tells me that I must speak the truth. So having said this, always, but I must put it out there, I strongly suggest for no one to get any vaccines. Now, all we can do is just purvey the message out there. And there is another thing playing out with the individual souls, that it needs to be their choice whether they have the vaccine or not. But what we need to do for what we are building the truth timeline. So to build that and keep its integrity intact, we need to speak our truth, regardless if they believe it or not. But we don't impose the truth upon them as you're doing. We just keep that timeline secured with the truth, and the ones that are to come up to know the truth, they will. And there are many things that we know, let's say with the whole scenario about the vaccine, there is a huge divine thing that is occurring upon the planet, because you also have the separation. I don't know if we get this. You also have the separation of the timeline. So we're going up here. This is the lower timeline. We're going up here. So there has to be something that separates, let's say, most of the darkness that is not going forward. There needs to be something that accounts for that, because again, with the Ascension, not everyone's going forward. And I'm not saying that if they take the vaccine, that is going to um, decide who is going forward or not. But what I will say is that it also could be one of the deciding factors. Nevertheless, the darkness does not go forward, and the organic constructs that don't have souls here, that looks like humans as well. So there's a lot that is not going forward, but the main The most important thing is to focus on yourself and empowering yourself and keeping your energetic values high, and keep connected with your community, your like-minded ones, and keep working on that vibration. So you need to have the ultimate respect of everyone that you see at the soul level, meaning that you cannot readily judge them. If it's someone, let's say, that you know has a soul, and if they get a vaccine, you're not to judge. You're to know at the soul level that some sort of a choice has been made that has nothing to do with you. You must allow them to have the free choice, and you must not try to control anyone in respect with that. All you can do is speak your truth and suggest your truth, and you leave the decision and choice rest with the other, and you do not take any of that issue upon you. So we've been waiting, for a long while for events to play out, and they are playing out. And as I said, more and more every day, you're seeing the signs. For example, we're here in Denmark. I'm looking out the window and I see the blue skies again tonight. So, or the pink, blue and pink, yeah. So, we see that every night and even in the morning, and it's an actual energy. What causes this pink? And that is the rose ray, the love energy, however you wish to describe it, but it's an actual energy, and it does have a color. And having said this, recently, even within science, they have put out a paper. I might have shared the article on this timeline a few weeks ago, that they recognize that certain energies has color. So yeah, and they do, as a lot of you that are able to see the actual energy spectrum with your eye. For example, if you're doing healing, some of you may see the green energy. If you're working with white light or gold light, you can see it. It'll actually show up that you visually see it. So it does have a definite color, and hence the what was early known as the 7 divine rays. However, there are much more than that. There's 13 actual rays that in this dimension and reality can be attained or can be utilized in certain work which one is doing. And one of the reasons to see the energy is to actually know that the energetic application is working, that it's a definite thing. And also it assists with eradicating or alleviating any doubt one may have of their self and their abilities, because that's very important. If you have doubt and you question yourself, you begin to separate yourself from your abilities. So you'll have to have full trust in yourself, what you're receiving, and your connection to the divine plan. And that also empowers you much more, where you're able to experience more of your abilities, because having questioning is a mistrust. It's not a full trust which you need in yourself. So to alleviate the doubt, the more and more you practice and try your gifts and and utilize them, the more you will see, and the stronger you will become as an individual, and it will definitely erase any doubts that you have. And it accreditates yourself, but then it also accreditates others, and we're all part of a big team here to do this. And by accrediting and validating others, you are also validating yourself, and you're also empowering others in yourself. So it's very important to do that as well. And because, again, as a whole and as a team, we influence and impact this lower dimension to change it very rapidly and very quickly. And this is how the light works, and this is what's going on. And as an example, you can take the growing numbers of protesters that are awakening. Well, part of that is due to the fact that the light workers and the light communities are advancing their bodies and their ability to affect and influence the timelines to a greater expansion to what they were before. And what this is doing is that you are the dominant way showers, light workers here. You are the dominant ones, and meaning your purity of light, your light quotient, is lighter than the density, and the density cannot, negativity cannot contest against it. So what we're doing is inevitable within ourselves and progressing the timelines for humanity. And it is a very real, very sure thing, and it's being scientifically documented as well. And we don't need to pump ourselves up or be proud and boast, but at the same time we must speak our truth and share our abilities with others. And so, having said that, we will not be restrained or confined by humility. There comes the time to own in this reality more of your divinity and your divine authority. You must rise above the humility and the modesty. Now, to do that, when you do it in such a disciplined way, it is not being the bad ego that goes with it. It is the good ego, which is part of your identity. And again, you need the ego because it is your identity, but it's also your divine power. For example, if you never speak that you're a divine one, no one ever knows you and of your ability. It's not to say that everyone needs to be on the front lines, but it is to say that someone needs to be there doing it. And you need to claim your power by rising above that humility. Do not let the words modesty or being humble, do not let it suppress you to those degrees. And do not look at the word ego or egotistically or being egotistical as being a bad word. Separate the darkness, negativity from it, and keep the good with the ego at owning your identity and going forward. You will see what I mean when you begin to own yourself. And in the Saint Germain teachings and others, the I am, it's so important. So the I am presence in the I am, and that is empowering, and that's also why it's taught. So when we get to this level where we're presently at, that you are acting more from the divine part of you, the divine soul and the higher self all intact, and part of this higher mission to have more of a great effect with your divine comrades, own your authority. And having said this, it's great with everyone to own what you're able to channel and what you're able to be the conduit for. For example, if you feel like you're Mary Magdalene, yes, proclaim that, because that is an actuality. And it doesn't mean that there needs to be one Mary Magdalene upon the planet, because in fact there are many that can access that energy. And when you access that energy, and when you are that energy, you can say that you're Mary Magdalene, for example. You can say you're Archangel Michael of Light. And And this is true. Once you utilize their energy and have a certain control and command over it, yeah, you can be that as well. Just as an example. So do not let ego, bad ego, and do not let humility and being so humble and modest to hold you back and suppress you and separate you from your true, good, pure power and your divine role here as well. So, great energetic update. And hello, everyone. I was rambling. Okay. Let me just scroll, see if there's any questions here. So I'll soon get into the GPMS here and the connection to the ascending timelines, and perhaps this will make a little bit more sense for you. So, hello, Mike, Lily, Jamie. One thing I will add, I'm still scrolling looking for questions, is, I'm so impressed as well seeing the magnitude of the divine masculines that I'm coming into contact with, Femke and I, and let me say it's very impressive as well. And I've said before, we knew they were there, and the divine masculine, they are more so when they began working on themselves, for the most part, they are more so withdrawn, a recluse, if you will, and they work upon themselves. But when they come out of the closet, the divine masculine, they are very empowered, and they got their stuff together, usually. And there is a variance, a little bit of difference, if you compare to a divine feminine, which is more in the heart, fully with it, and a little bit more open and connecting with others during her empowerment journey. But having said that, the divine masculine, it's kind of like you don't know they're there, you don't see them, but when they come out and you do, wow, you're going, So just to let you know that that is ongoing. And having said that, when I'm seeing these indications of more and more divine advanced masculine showing up, it also means that the divine feminine are going forward another step, because the divine masculine, the organic divine masculine upon the planet, they're mostly holding the space for the feminine, but there's usually in the past 25% divine masculine awakened and empowered, and about 75% of the divine feminine, which would set the feminine energetics for the timelines to change things, and the masculine would come along. However, when you have more feminine awakening as well, then you need more masculine to keep going forward together. So, having said this, we're preparing for another huge upward shift, because this is what you see. Your first indications that a big shift is coming is seeing more of these advanced masculine appear. So that means then the divine feminine are also increasing, but the timeline is increasing. One way you wish to look at the timelines here in this lower dimension, when you look at the energetics, it's feminine dominant here, because you can say we are in the where the mother is the creator in this reality, and with the motherly traits and instincts, but the unconditional love and those compassion, deep compassion and caring. Of course, the divine mother, divine feminine, leads the role here, and of course simply the divine masculine fertilizes the energetic timelines as well. But it does take both to ascend here, and that's what it's about. Um, there would not be genders here in organic and energetic both if it was not the keys also to go out of this reality. And that's also one of the reasons why the twin flame concept is so real as well. So the mother plays that very significant role without getting too deep into that at advancing things forward, at getting out of the lower dimensions, which we're doing. So, blah, blah, blah. I'm rambling on. I'll have a look here. Seeing if there's any questions yet. Thank you. Thank you all for your beautiful greetings and everything that you're saying. You're all welcome. Thank you so much. As you know, I've been just as many of you could see if you're to look at my timeline and see all of the divine things that we, Femke and I, are doing. It's just like you could say we're divinely 24/7 working. So not only now this is important for the energetic update as well. Uh, I I let's say was put into divine charge upon the planet to construct the 5D grid, but of course in unison with others that contributed to this. So, a few years ago, some of you perhaps even joined in and assisted with this, where we constructed, we had the 5D grid, let's say more or less constructed, and we activated power points, power nodules where ley lines intersect all around Gaia, and that infrastructure with the primary ley lines was completed. And what part of what we're doing now is it's a good way to look at it, that I'll use Femke's ponytail thing. So let's say if this is Gaia here, right all around Gaia, we have in the atmosphere or in the sky, we have a 5D grid that's all constructed. And what we've been doing, I'll use this again, is we're energetically attaching that grid to this reality. And when we do that, it changes everything in the areas where we're at. For example, in Croatia, that was significant. That is the new heart chakra of Gaia. And when we activated that, so many things occurred there. And any of you can follow along with what I'm saying, and you can see it's all documented. And when Femke and I moved out of Croatia to go to the Netherlands, we ended up doing a lot of energetic work there and anchoring specifically a ley line that came from Croatia to and attached in Iceland. And what was occurring is before we got to the Netherlands, to get the ley line secured, let's say halfway between an energetic ley line, well, at that time, Iceland, I think, was having as high as maybe 10,000 earthquakes, minor ones, in a day. So it was part of the energetic work we were doing. And by science, it's being documented, at least to some degree. Femke's and I being together, our presence in areas is changing energetically so much, and it's affecting the atmosphere, it affects everyone, and it affects the realities, as all of you do as well. So we are buttoning down, if you will, the 5D energetics to the planet. And here in Denmark, we've been, since we've been here, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago. Things have become a blur. We have done three important activations in three different areas. Now, this is substantial for doing this in Denmark, where we anchored in the 5D grid, and I've come to find out a bit more information that in Denmark it's a very appreciable and impressive number of ones awakened here as well, and of course in their heart, like we had in Croatia, where Croatia, you know, was so powerful. And what I wish to say, yes, it's divinely chosen, but it was divinely ordained that it would be the new heart chakra for the 5D grid. And divinely, those that are in Croatia, not only Croatians are there, that they're very powerful, energetic ones in their heart to keep that intact. So everything on the higher divine levels is assured, and it's ascertained, and it is real when you begin anyone to research and scientifically analyze and study what I say. You can see it all makes absolute sense, and you can also see perhaps the full documentation for yourself, or the full validation that it is real. But getting back to Denmark, yeah, it's very substantial what we're doing here. You know, we were guided here at the last moment, more or less, and I anticipate we will be going to Sweden and Norway is the tentative divine path very shortly. However, I'd anticipated we would have been gone out of Denmark perhaps by now. However, divinely we must stay here for at least a few more weeks. So things are happening very good and very quickly. It's all on divine timing, and I say on because we used to say in divine timing. But that kind of put us down in the mix and at the mercy of divine timing. So I suggest for any of you now that use that phrase in divine timing to begin to use on divine timing, and it raises you up a level that you're not really at the mercy of the mix of all of the divine things going on, especially, you know, on the lower timelines. If you say on divine timing, a little play on words, it kind of keeps you up there a little bit higher. Okay. Blah. So let me have a look here at some questions. Mary Walton says imminent. I keep hearing imminent. Yes, Mary, it is. Everything, you know, it's happening. Everything is speeding up. Time is speeding up, and everything is imminent. The light has won, and with this, you know what we actually did in the last year and a half or 2 years. We took 10 years of linear time in the future, and boom, we compressed it all in the last couple years. So what this has done, it has shortened in linear time the duration of our mission and the ascension of humanity out of the present slavery and savagery they are in. And I don't really need to explain why I call it savagery, but what I can say, it's inhumane and it's savage to have anyone upon the planet starving or dying of starvation or in poverty now. And where that exists, you know, that shows that there is savagery and incompetence within what were the world leaders. So we are the light. We are here to change all this, and let's say to advance humanity out of the ridiculous lower density as well. And with that, the GPMS the global people's monetary system, what I have initiated, and a growing team assisting with that. What we have done, it is the ultimate solution for humanity to transition into, and the time is ripe for that, and it's already a creation. It was brought into creation, into this reality when we launched our website on March 17th, our global website of this year. So where it is a huge, powerful light vehicle, it does have the dominance and means that it is inevitable and it is imminent that we go into that. Wayne speaks about the galactic, he says, much talk about the galactic disclosure coming soon. Any thoughts? Wayne, you know what we've been seeing even from the lower timelines, the mainstream media, we've been seeing, you know, drips and drops of evidence and documentation coming out even from them. Now on the alternative news, as we know, there is much more documentation and the knowing about it, that it is real. Let me say, I'm seeing and I know that more are beginning to, let's say, more of the ships and the knowing that it is a reality. And what I will say is that the galactic disclosure coming soon, yes, I feel see, once we have this upward shift in consciousness, that it has to come, but it could come before we have the significant upward shift, because it could play a part in shifting humanity and their consciousness forward too. That is imminent. You know, Wayne, you have seen and had perhaps your contact, as well as I and others. We know it's real, and we know what exists. So let's say we at least will be having more experiences with that. And also Femke and I had an experience the other night again, but I won't get into that here. But it is, all the viewers out there, it is very real, and it plays an important role in us and in going forward. So, great. But galactic disclosure, yeah, coming soon. Wayne, I like to say it's already out there. But we'll see what occurs with the timelines, with humanity as well, how quick the truth will, more of the truth will be given. Okay. Let's see. I learned says some male energy is crossed over in the incarnate descent. Uncertain what you mean by that, but it says she is tired of the masculine patriarchal roles and wars. Yeah, indeed. As you can see, we're not experiencing any wars because of what the light is doing. Let me say, there's been fabricated footage of wars as well, meant to instigate fear, and you know, a lot of this is not real. And the patriarchal role, really, that is no longer, let's say, here, as we know. And going forward, it has to be in unison, 50-50. So the patriarchal thing, I like to say that's a thing of the past. That no, it will be and is a 50-50 when we get there, where it's fully at. I kind of like to say it's balanced now, but if you look at the lower timelines, you'll see, like with the leadership, mostly perhaps was masculine. But let me say with the light leaders and where we're going with GPMS and in the future, most of those are feminine, and they need to be. And one of the reasons is that in the past, at least for humanity, they would more so trust a feminine or a woman than they would trust a man, because they knew a man would lie more in the past. So more trust. It's more easy for general people to instill trust within a feminine than a masculine, usually in the past. But there was exceptions to that. But having said it, here in the future, no, most of the leaders, light leaders, will be feminine, and it needs to be that way, or a good part of them at least will be. Uh, One says she's Jamie going to pass out, nausea, yeah, all symptoms, energy processing. Also, you're integrating. See, you have immense influxes of photonic light that begins to activate more of your crystalline body and the DNA. And when this occurs, it creates the discomfort into the physical that you begin to feel it, but it's all the parts of the process. And going into nature should relieve this. Yes, you're absolutely correct as well. You're in nature, you're in a much cleaner air as well, which is so important. Oxygen outside is just so enhanced and energized beyond anything that it was before. And it's so important, yes, to get out there. And also I saw a brother, Yannick Prochnow, a few months ago. He also put out scientists saying about being in the pine forest and the pine trees, the chemical reaction that it does by smelling that, and raises one's vibration and puts them in a more tranquil and pacified state, which is also an empowering state. So, yeah, it's very good. Be in the forest. I love smelling the sweet poplars as well, in Canada. And it's such a beautiful smell, and the pine trees, of course, and all of the forest. It is this fragrances is so beautiful. And we got some lilacs here where we're at. Anyone knows of the lilac flowers, and that is so beautiful. When I smell those, it puts me, let's say, in a state of heavenly bliss. The fragrance from the lilac flower. Anyhow, rambling again. So, I'm going to look at the time here, because soon we'll cut this down. I have such a busy schedule with things, and I like not to restrict things by time limits, because we're on divine timing, which divine timing means you do what you must do and what you get done, and divine timing is not restricted by linear timing. So the clocks, mechanical clock you have here on the planet is not what we are. We don't go by that, and we don't, for the most part, it doesn't control what we do. For example, Femke and I, when we sleep and when we are awake, it's not by any clock. It's by, you got to listen to the body and do that and feel it. And that is in your own time, or on divine timing when you do that. But if you're following a clock, if you're working a 9 to 5 job, well, what that is doing, it's dictating where you are at. So it's creating your timeline. If you got to go to work, it's putting you in a place where you may not wish to be at, or it may put you in a place which is disempowering. So one of the stages of advancement and in enhancing yourself, as many of you will know, is you got to detach from that linear clock here, because it was controlling you in your timeline. So you need to uh, be the controller of your own timeline and not let anything else dictate your timeline. So you limit it to the most degree. Um, Celine says she's been ordered to quit drinking, smoking, etc. because of her mission. It's really hard. Any advice? Well, Celine, yes, the alcohol, what I'm giving, is one of the first things to go, and one of the reasons with the biological organic process of the body is that you're using energy to advance the body forward into the crystalline process. And this is also why your diets have to be cleaned up and take the chemicals out of your body. And the complex carbons, which are in the sugars of the alcohol, it takes a lot of the energy of the body to break it down. This is why you get hangovers, if you will, or why you become inebriated and intoxicated. It's a process that's expending a lot of your energy also to break down the complex chemical structures and the molecules uh, that are attached. So having said this, usually alcohol is the first to go. Like, well, synthetic drugs, are part to go first. Then, or pharmaceuticals, alcohol got to go. But then smoking is perhaps one of the last things to go. So organic cigarettes. So more so in that order. Uh, as we advance forward with it. So more so that is a general uh, rule, but there's also exceptions that does occur. One of the important things with this ascension is to not draw conclusions on anything. You look at everything as guidelines, but know that there can be variants and there are exceptions. So you can say exceptions to the rule. I don't like to really use the word rule, but let's say there are exceptions. Yeah. And this is also why it's so important not to judge another and to not think that that they are doing something wrong. Know that each one is doing absolutely what is correct for them. Even the teachers that are out there, they may be saying something that doesn't resonate with you. However, it's out there for a reason that it may resonate with another audience. So it's best not to get too wrapped up into the judging thing and just follow your heart. If something doesn't resonate, then don't waste your time on it. That simply means it's not for you. Now there is the other layer that was there before, but let's also say for one's just awakening, that you need to learn your discernment with let's say what is dark and what is light. It's part of your process. So you need to strengthen, when you're just awakening, your discernment um, to get yourself fully on track, forward. But it's part of your process. You need to learn this on to build up your discernment process. So you may be showing, let's say, some negative what you think is false teachings, but let's say even false teachings has a benefit, because you needed to go there to see that it was false, perhaps because when you come back and you learn and you go up higher, you have that information to assist other ones with when they come to you. So everything does have the value, and it's about advancing, forward on the different levels of consciousness and increasing your energy. So, yeah, so much is happening. There's many things. Yeah, thanks, Lee. And with the truth thing as well, truths will change going forward. That's why I strongly suggest do not draw conclusions on anything, because they can change, and also the divine plan can change, without any notice as well. And I'm connected, Femke and I are connected, to divinity and source, creator, father. However, there are times, very rarely, that we'll be told something, but then the plan will change. But with the truth, and this is, but just get back, this is why Femke and I are flexible in the moment to follow the divine plan and the prompts that are laid out for us, rather than us planning things ourselves. This is not how it works. We follow the divine plan, and without getting deep, there's a lot I could ramble about on that, and I'm not getting into it. But getting back to the truth, you know that this is true, that the truth changes. For example, when you weren't awakened, you thought everything, was okay and good with the governments, work hard, pay taxes maybe. But when you're awakened, you come to see that that was not a truth at all, that there's a higher truth, that was actually the lie. So this is an example. Just do not, as we go forward, truths can change as well. Because one of the reasons is, you're upon the planet here not knowing all of the truth, and there are divine reasons for that. For if you knew all of the truth, you would not be here. And I can share with you that I tried to leave, but I had a soul contract, if you will. I signed myself in here for this mission, and it's not allowed. And I know the ways to get out of here, but it's divinely assured that I don't leave until the mission's done. However, saying that, for it's divinely assured that I don't leave, but let me say I do know the truth, and I'm at the full divine liberty to share every bit that I can with everyone, so we get this mission over with. But I must have discipline as well with this, and I am responsible for things. And there are times that I could say higher truths, and it's divinely assured that if I'm speaking to one, they would forget it or not even hear it as well. So I can speak freely, and it's divinely assured that if there's anything I shouldn't say, that it's taken out of the timeline even altogether. But blah. So let me just say, this is getting pretty lengthy. So with the GPMS, let's just say again that it's a divine construct. It is the ultimate advancement solution for humanity. Father had told me last July to write it up onto, in this reality, to begin to have it created. In December, I believe, Father said it was time to begin to announce it publicly, even though I had it written to put it out publicly, because the population of the planet is ready, and the certain amount with the GPMS, as I said, it only needs 20% of the world population, perhaps, or even less, to sign it. So at that time, Father said that the planet was ready for it, humanity was ready to put it out, which I did. And I hold to what I'm saying with the GPMS, that very quickly, it only takes perhaps a couple months in the past to gather the consent. It's taken a little bit longer than that, but things can still be done within months. And as we keep going forward, um, too, it can be done. And what's happening on the lower timelines also allows for the GPMS to be done quicker too. Because what's happening on the lower timelines, it's awakening more and more. So when the GPMS takes off at any moment in a blink of an eye, it's going very rapidly. So we can bring the GPMS into full implementation, and I still say, within 6 months this can still happen, and ultimately it does. And where I said, the banks could do this in the government's, in partisan, or I shouldn't say partisan, the government's in collaboration with the banks. If they really had humanity's best interests in mind, they could do what we're doing 2 days. But it's not for them to do, it's for the people to do, and that's why they are not doing it. They'll make vain attempts. Let's take Canada, for example, putting out preposterous basic incomes with a whole bunch of conditions in there, and one to take away your freedom. But it's ridiculous, and nothing can contend, nothing can compete with the GPMS, meaning there is no concoction that any of the leaders or lower timelines can come up with that remedies all of this. There's distortions and manipulation attempts at different constructs, but nothing can compete with this. This is the ultimate. And having said this, the Jacera, Nacera timelines, all of the cryptos, everything, nothing can contend with what we are doing with this. So it all has to converge into the GPMS. And the GPMS is, you hear all the snapping and cracking, the confirmations. It is the ultimate. So, when that occurs, I still feel it will happen very quickly, and I stay with that, and as any of you that know it, that have looked at it, it's the ultimate absolute sense for all of humanity. So it does it does get there with it. So having said that too, we need leaders in the GPMS. We need the light leaders, so we need you in there to assist with this, at getting the word out, and to making contacts with the other groups around the planet. There's been a consciousness gap that we need to break there. It's been mostly in the sovereign communities, not all of them. I've tested a couple, but they are. We need to break those gaps of communication so they understand what they've been fighting for. It's now here that we need to join together. So these communities, as well as all the awakened communities, need to unite at this time to create this for ourselves and all of humanity. The whole divine plan, it takes the unity to get it done, and that's what it's about. And it's the sharing and the uniting globally, and creating the harmony upon the planet as all borders come down, and there's no differentiation between race, you know, even creed the beliefs with what the GPMS is. It's just offering the full financial comfort for everyone. You can keep your beliefs, whatever you have, but it's to provide this for humanity so they move forward, to keep it simple. Ah, water. Anyhow, so it's that's pretty good. I've went on quite a bit here, and the energetic updates, everything's going to divine plan. One thing you were taught, one of the most important virtues is to have patience. Yeah, it's been playing out quite a long time, the movie, but keep the patience and just keep going forward. Don't get attached too much to that lower timeline that's playing out, or um, any of the fear associated with it, or the negativity. Just keep yourself in the highest state possible, and know you are always doing your best. And so that's great. So I thank you all. I'm scrolling down here. Just scrolling quickly, but anyways, thank you, team, for putting up the GPMS website, and some you got a decree and a consent if you wish to utilize that. And we got a petitions, ones are putting up, excellent. Everyone's assisting with, getting the word out about the GPMS, because also I need to explain this for a moment to all. This GPMS is the full ultimate hope and solution for humanity, but it's a seeable hope. We have brought it into this reality so that they can see it. It's a definite hope, which is much more substantial than relying on governments or politicians to do things, which we know is not going to get done. So, again, having said this, what we need to do is spread that awareness, and get ones to put their signature, their autograph on there, to create the huge voice that then takes the GPMS forward. It makes it the dominant voice upon the planet, because it's the ultimate solution for humanity. And if you look worldwide, most of humanity is in poverty. Um, at poverty levels. I mean, you might look in Canada, think it's an advanced country, but when you look at, let's say, a lot of the seniors in because of when you look at a lot of seniors, their income, but when you look at the price indexes of things and the cost of living, you'll see even they are in poverty levels. So most of the world, if it depends on how you define poverty levels. And if you look on government websites, they create the illusion, because of what they consider the poverty level, then they assign a number, but they don't factor in the real, all of the contributing factors, so their numbers are not correct. The lower and middle class and poverty classes are much higher than what the governments or even the world statistics put out. It's the way they do their numbers. It's also like, I was part of my divine learning was I was in the markets, and when you would look at, let's say, the U.S. employment numbers, for example, and they would put out certain number for the markets, let's say like employment rates at 9-10%, when in actuality, when you figured them out yourself, you would see that the unemployed numbers were actually about 23 or 25%. but it was the way that they did their trick accounting to try to put out an illusionary number for the people. So just to let you know about that too. Okay, I gotta go. Love, light, and gratitude, and yeah, check up the GPMS. It's your future. It's your child's future. It's everyone's future, and it's coming very shortly. And that depends on all of you and all of us together. So we keep taking it forward. Thank you for this time, and love and light to all of you. Much gratitude, and for all of you watching, all of you with your questions, and of course everyone to watch this in the future as well. So much gratitude, much love and light from Femke and I from Denmark, and yeah, watch the show. We'll be putting out more things as well if you wish. So thank you, and good night from Denmark. Woo!